Okay, welcome to Philosophy Online Lectures. We are still on post-Aristotelian philosophy, and today we'll be talking about skepticism in this period. Now, we all know skepticism is a philosophy that nothing can be known, that we can't make judgments on ideas either through reason or through our sense experience. Now, skepticism was also very popular in the Hellenistic states, and they were they were very critical of the philosophies at this period, especially that of Epicureanism and Stoicism, which was popular at this period. You know, Epicureanism and Stoicism were always quarreling about their philosophy. Now, the skeptics complained that both their rivals assumed that they had no basis for assuming the competence of human reason to know reality. That is, they are always arguing about how we know things, how we can have knowledge of things, and this skepticism is always uh, uh, inquiring about is it possible? What is the competence of the human reason to know the reality? Now, so, well, first of all, let's understand what a skeptic means. Skeptics come from the Greek word skeptikos, which means inquirer. So, skeptics are majorly inquirers into belief. They always ask questions into belief at what is the foundation of this knowledge you are talking about? How is it possible? This thing you are saying is it true? How do you know that it's true? So that is what skeptics do. Now, it is not all philosophers that have the courage to do this, to question the basis of knowledge. But the skeptics get joy. They pride themselves in their ability to inquire into the foundation of our beliefs. And they also have the honesty to face the fact that there are no foundations. Now, like I said before, like we know, or let me assume we do not know, skepticism was already in the pre-Socratic era under the school of Sufism. You know, the Sufism questions knowledge. So, but in the Hellenistic period, it was revived by Pyrrho of Elis, who lived around 360 to 270 BC. And Pyrrhonism later became was later known as a synonym for skepticism at that period due to how it was very popular and it was revived by Pyro. So now moving forward, skeptics were against the two bases of knowing something. That is through some claim that we can know things through our sense experience, while some claim that we can know things through rationality, that is through reason. Now, in the sense experience, skeptics said that we can't know things through our sense experience, as knowing things through our sense experience means that we have to move outside of our sensory organs, which is impossible. Now, how do I mean? Someone might eat take a spoon of a meal, and that person will say, ah, this food is not delicious. That another person might taste that food and say, ah, this food is very delicious. So the two of them contradict each other. But it is their sensory organ that allows them to taste, that give them their judgment. But since two of them can be contradictory, that means we have to move outside of our sensory organs to determine, is this food actually delicious? But it's not possible to know if a food is delicious if we do not taste it. So that is on the fact that to know things, we have to move outside of our sensory organ, or move beyond sense experience to know if something is actually true or something is wrong. And this is impossible to the skeptics. Hence, we can't know anything through sense experience. Now another one is on through rationality, through reason. Skeptics say that for every argument that you put forward, there is always a counter argument. So if you say that Nigeria will get better, another person will come and say Nigeria can never get better. So through reason, there is always a counter argument for every idea. So that's on that basis we we cannot say that we know anything. If someone can always come against our idea and we can always provide counter arguments, that is both of us do not know anything. So that is those were part of the common claims of skeptics on knowing something. Rather, so they now say that since we cannot assume that we know anything, uh, they are not saying that instead of saying that, okay, for example, that the honey is sweet, we should rather say that the honey appears to be sweet. They are not saying that knowledge should we shouldn't be judgmental, but we should claim to know things through appearance. We should say things appear to be true, but not that those things are actually true. So they are now saying that since we cannot know the real nature of things, we can confidently talk about their appearance and not the real nature of things and claiming that this is what this is. This same advice goes for moral judgment. That is, we cannot say that this is what is right or this is what is wrong, but we can only say that they appear to be uh, true, they appear to be right, and they appear to be wrong. Yeah, and is saying that they also said that a wise person is always indifferent about knowledge. A wise person do not conclude that this is what is true. And then also they say they favor the social conservatism in the sense that we cannot know what is good or bad in itself, but we should leave those judgments to the consensus of the law and tradition. We shouldn't argue about what is actually right under the law, but we should leave it for the tradition and the law of the states to decide that themselves and not we ourselves. So that is that on the skepticism. Now we are looking at how skepticism keeps philosophy out of dogmatism. Dogmatism is being conservative about knowledge, trying to preserve knowledge without asking if they're actually true or false, without uh, ideas that we believe to be true, even without evidence. That is what dogmatism is all about, holding on to ideas and beliefs. And even in our society till date, there are some things that we still believe without asking how the idea came into existence. Like superstitious beliefs to fall under dogmatism. Like also, if they say that the best president that Nigeria would have ever produced is Obafemi Awolowo, and to date we still have that belief that Obafemi Awolowo would have been the best president ever. What are the evidence that you can claim that this man would actually have been the best president ever? So dogmatism is holding on to beliefs that we perceive to be true even without evidence, and this is what skepticism was much more working against, because like skepticism in Greek means inquirer. An inquirer seeks to know the truth about something. So skepticism helped philosophy pull out of dogmatism in the sense that when a theorist come and say that this is what constitutes reality, and another person comes and say that no, this is what constitutes reality, and are we made to believe all those? No, skepticism will come and say that this idea, what is the evidence for this idea? Your own idea, what is the evidence for this idea? So as we keep inquiring, it helps us arrive arrive at the truth. And even if it's not possible for us to arrive at the truth, it keeps the fire of questioning burning. It helps us continue questioning what is actually true. And this is what one of the values of philosophy, to help us continue considering questions about what is actually true and what is actually wrong. So skepticism kept philosophy out of dogmatism, and the academic skeptics who academic was the school of Plato. Now some scholars in the academic were influential in turning the academic towards skepticism. And one of their points was that the academic has lost the Socratic spirit of inquiry. Socrates was always inquiring to know what is the truth, and they claim that they have settled into a comfortable dogmatism of holding into onto a belief without seeking to know what is true. Now, they also emphasize that Socrates said that he knew nothing. Socrates, after he always claimed that he is ignorant too, but he is always seeking to know, to have knowledge. So, if Socrates can say that he knew nothing, then definitely we can also say that we know nothing. Now, the skeptics also used Plato's skeptical arguments against the senses, and you know, Plato was an idealist, and he had so many arguments against the sense experience of knowing things. Now, the skeptics were never tired of attacking the dogmatism of both the Epicureans and the Stoics too, who both assumed that knowledge is based on the senses. The skeptics were saying that even in our dreams and hallucinations, we are presented with false images that are also convincing. So the skeptics undercut any search for a criteria for truth. That is the We're always questioning any basis in which we want to say that this thing is true. For if we want to bring about a principle to say that this is what we can always use to judge what is true or right, that principle itself needs to be questioned if it is possible to help us judge what is true or what is wrong. So now we should note that the skeptics were not did not assert that nothing can be known finally. They will always say that we can always assert that there are something that appear to be. Now, they also suspended judgment on whether in their final analysis that skepticism itself was true. So they were also skeptical about themselves. Now, so skepticism, kept philosophy out of dogmatism. They contributed to philosophy by making philosophy self-critical and keeping it honest and free from dogmatism. Also, they set the agenda for later philosophers who, in their works now, have to make sure that what they are actually writing is actually what is true and not just a mere idea, because if they come up with anything they have to face the consequences of the skeptical attacks. Yes, so they inspired a good deal of work in epistemology, in the foundation of knowledge. Now, even Descartes used skeptical doubts as a method for finding which beliefs were certain beyond all question. That was where he got to know that he actually existed, and that I know therefore that I exist. So skepticism was very, very important in pulling philosophy out of just mere beliefs and accepted truths without evidence. Now that is how skepticism was important in helping philosophy to pull out of dogmatism. And thank you so much for listening.